Hello and welcome to this edition of Wineskins. I'm Father Jim Corda. Wineskins is a program that features reflections on the lives of the saints and the sacred scriptures, along with a variety of issues and topics, all from a Catholic perspective. Wineskins is brought to you through the annual Bishop's Appeal, the Catholic Communication Campaign, and St. Paul's Catholic Books and Gifts, a division of the Society of St. Paul. On our program today, I will interview Lynn Zaleski of Catholic Charities in Ashtabula in part one of a three-part series from the television show Spotlight. We will also hear more information on the life and times of St. John Paul II. And today, as the Church celebrates the 29th Sunday in Ordinary Time, we will get a deeper insight into those particular Sunday readings. That and more on Wineskins. To tell us more about missions in the Diocese of Youngstown is Father Ed Brenz.
This is Father Edward Brenz, and our topic is missions. And I have a visitor here from Haiti. Her name is Sister Kathleen Nealon. Welcome, Sister Kathleen.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
You're a sister from which congregation?
I'm a Maronite of Holy Cross.
And what does that mean?
Well, that's the name of my religious congregation, and our charism is standing with Mary at the foot of the cross, and another part of our mission statement says we resolutely stand with those who are excluded.
And so if you're standing with those who are excluded and you're in Haiti, what might your main ministry be? Well,
my ministry is, I'm currently working at an orphanage with children who almost all of them have lost their mothers. And they are coming from very poor families, situations where they may be lacking many of the basic necessities that we take for granted here. I'm working as a clinical social worker, providing the children with therapy. I do group play therapy with them. I do a little psychoeducation to teach them about their feelings, that their feelings are important. And I really give them a chance to play and to do creative activities to express themselves in ways that are healing to them, because many of them have experienced a lot of loss. They're separated from their families while they're at the orphanage, and some have probably experienced abuse and various forms of trauma as well.
And what language would they be speaking then?
The children all speak Haitian Creole. That really is the language in Haiti that everybody speaks. In school, they are primarily taught in French, but Haitian Creole really is the language of the culture.
So when you went to minister there, how much preparation did it take to be able to work with them?
This is my second time in Haiti. Before I went the first time, I studied the language for 6 weeks. So that was very important to me to be able to speak the language, especially for the type of work that I'm doing. And not that I speak it perfectly. The children helped me to learn it as well. So language was a big part of the preparation, and learning about the culture. The class that I took in Miami before I went the first time included a lot of information about culture, which it's very important to learn when you're going into another culture, to have a sense of the history of the people, where they're coming from, and what may be important to them based on their cultural experiences.
So we're all very familiar with the American Catholic expression of faith, so to speak. Could you describe the expression of faith in Haiti among the children that you work with?
Well, I find that religion and belief in God is very central to the Haitian culture. The children have such an amazing faith, and they express it. I think they express their faith and their belief in God more openly than many people in the United States do. People in Haiti, if they say they're going to do something, they'll often follow it with si Dieu veut, which means if God wants, if God wills. If you ask people how they are, even the children will respond, I'm fine, thanks be to God, in Haitian Creole. I'm amazed sometimes at the faith and the things that the children will say. I can remember asking a 4-year-old, I was actually asking something about feelings, and the child answered, well, Jesus said we should share.
Uh-huh.
So that's really...
That's beautiful. What do they have to share?
Well, the children have, many of them, despite their poverty, have a sense of joy. They share what they have with one another, with me. They share their experiences, their history, just have a great love even for one another, I find.
And so we're here in the United States, and obviously we support everything that the missionaries are doing. What type of prayers might be helpful? What advice can you give us on prayers for the missions?
Any prayers are greatly appreciated. I think praying for the children, praying for their families, praying for the workers. The workers work very, very hard at the orphanage. They do a lot of the daily tasks of caring for children, washing their clothes, and all of the clothes are washed by hand. We don't have a washer machine. Most people in Haiti don't. And many people have experienced a great deal of suffering there. So I think praying for kind of continued healing, praying for the people, that the prayers are greatly appreciated.
I think we'd also agree that prayers for the missionaries.
Yes.
That God continue to send them to support you and replenish your ranks and continue to share the good news. We're delighted to hear about the good work and how the gospel is spread around the world. For Wineskins, I'm Father Edward Brenz.
St. John Paul II was one of the longest reigning pontiffs in the Catholic Church. To tell us more is Kim Coulter from the Holy Family Institute of the Society of St. Paul in Canfield.
At the time of his death, on April 2, 2005, devotion to Pope John Paul II was already widespread, and cries of Santo Subito, which means saint now, rose spontaneously in St. Peter's Square following his passing. He was beatified by Pope Benedict XVI before a crowd of over 1 million people on May 1, 2011, in front of St. Peter's Basilica. Beatified individuals are not typically inscribed on the Church's universal calendar, but an exception was made on behalf of Blessed John Paul II. He was elected to the papacy on October 16, 1978, and on October 22nd began his ministry as shepherd of the Universal Church. As Pope, he made 146 pastoral visits in Italy, and as Bishop of Rome, he visited 317 of the 332 parishes in Rome. The apostolic trips, an expression of his constant pastoral solicitude as successor of St. Peter for the whole Church, added up to a total of 104. Among the primary documents which he wrote are 14 encyclicals, 15 apostolic exhortations, 11 apostolic constitutions, and 45 apostolic letters. He also wrote numerous and other works, including 5 books. He presided over 147 beatifications, declaring 1,338 beatified, and 51 canonizations, proclaiming a total of 482 saints. He also officiated at 9 consistorials, thereby creating 232 cardinals, and presided at 6 plenary reunions of the College of Cardinals. He inaugurated moments of particular spiritual intensity, such as the Year of Redemption, the Marian Year, and the Eucharistic Year, as well as the Great Jubilee of the year 2000. He also attacked younger generations by the celebration of World Youth Days. Numerous government officials were also received in audience. There were 38 official visits and a further 738 audiences and meetings with heads of state, along with 246 visits with prime ministers. John Paul II died in the Vatican's Apostolic Palace on Saturday, April 2, 2005, on the Vigil of Divine Mercy Sunday, which he had instituted. He was canonized by Pope Francis, along with St. John XXIII, on April 27, 2014. How fitting that he, who had dedicated his long life and unspeakable suffering to spreading the message of mercy and the saving grace of Christ, should be remembered in such a profound and relevant way. For Wineskins, this is Kim Coulter.
Hello and welcome to Spotlight. I'm Father Jim Corda. Today we're going to talk about Catholic charities, in particular Catholic charities in Ashtabula County. And joining me in today's show is Lynn Zaleski, who is the executive director there, and it's such a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you, Father, for inviting me. It's great to be here.
You know, we talk often about the wonderful work of Catholic charities in and around our diocese, and now we're going to focus today on Ashtabula County. But before we do that, let's give the folks that are with us a little background into what Catholic Charities is all about.
Okay, sure. Well, Catholic Charities in Ashtabula County has actually been operating for 70 years in our county, and our mission is to provide service to those in need, to advocate for justice in social structures, and to call others to join us. So all of our programming kind of follows the works, the corporal works of mercy, and so we really work on basic needs, the elderly, family, and children. So all of those things go into our service mix.
When we talk about Ashtabula County, are there totally different things that are going on in that county as opposed to some of the other counties in the Diocese of Youngstown? Or are there peculiar things, or is it just the same?
Part is the same, but there also is the part of us being really rural, and so in the southern part of our county, transportation becomes an issue where it may not be in some other areas. There's public transportation in the northern part, but when you're looking at some of those southern parts of the county, we really have to take that into consideration because it's a long haul, and gas and the availability of transportation becomes an issue.
You know, Ashtabula is the largest county really in the state of Ohio, and I would imagine that it's probably diverse in certain areas. We probably have pockets where we have poor, and we have pockets where we have people that are working class and middle class and maybe upper middle class. Where do you see that trend in the whole county going as you look at the needs that you're responding to in Catholic Charities? Are those trends changing, or there's some focus on certain areas that need attention?
One of the areas that continues to unfortunately be an area of focus because of the high demand is that of our basic needs assistance. So that actually has increased significantly still last year. While we hear other parts of the state and county or diocese or maybe improving, we still continue to see a strong need for those very basic necessities: food, clothing, shelter, utilities, those types of assistance.
In one of our interviews, we were talking about, I had mentioned the phrase working poor, and it's kind of hard to fathom that there are people that actually hold down a full-time job that cannot meet the basic needs of their families. Mm-hmm. That's kind of a sad situation for someone who is trying to do the best they can with what God has provided them and the skills that they have. What is Catholic Charities, especially in Ashtabula County, responding to, in particularly to those people?
One of the things that we look at is when people do come to us for assistance, and you are very right, a person could be working sometimes 2 and 3 jobs trying to manage the month-to-month needs, and they still are unable to make it. So what we do is we look at a budget, and we look at what's coming in and what's going out, and try and prioritize those needs, talk about wants and needs, and help them come up with a budget that is manageable. Often it is because housing is too large of a portion of their income, but one of the challenges becomes is finding decent, affordable housing for individuals that are working poor. And, you know, working poor, when we talk about that, minimum wage, what you would make there is very different from what it takes to make a living, to a sustainable living. And so there's a big gap there.
I would imagine that in the not too distant past, you saw many foreclosures up in the area, like we did throughout the country.
Right.
What would be some of the immediate response to those particular needs that you may have had in the past that you still might have now?
Well, still, foreclosure continues to be an issue, and we actually are the only HUD certified agency in Ashtabula County, so our housing counselor can still work with lenders and work as that neutral mediator. Oftentimes, you know, there's a lot of language and things working with the lender that you're not used to working with, and so that housing counselor can come into play and sometimes help get a lower monthly payment. They can reduce interest and make things more affordable so that they can afford their house and keep in their house and still maintain their other basic necessities as well.
Let's talk about your agency up in Ashtabula. Give us a flavor for the personnel that work there, some of their background, what gifts do they have that they provide to the people, and what are some of the services. Briefly, we'll talk about those services, but more about the people that are there first.
We have a staff of 15 currently. Many of them have been there for many years. We're talking 10 years or more, so we're very lucky about that. But I think what we find for the staff that are working in our agencies is that they are really there as a mission-driven. They are not so much considering it a job, but they are very passionate about the mission and those that we serve. And one of the things that we always want to do is which maybe differentiates us from other agencies, is that we want to be able to treat people with dignity and respect, and we try and meet the people where they are. So it doesn't matter where they are in their life, but we want to be approachable and to give them hope. Our tagline is providing help and creating hope. So while we are maybe helping them with their immediate assistance, we also want to give them some hope for the future.
You know, how important is it to give that virtue of hope to people, especially, you know, when they have these tremendous difficulties in their lives, whether it's financial or spiritual or emotional. You know, obviously Catholic Charities doesn't respond to all of those particular needs, but at least to help with the social and the physical needs and give that sense of hope. It's almost like this mission has to be ingrained within the workers and within the people that provide the services, because if we didn't have that, we would see it merely as a 9-to-5 job.
Right.
Which it isn't. And anyone that works, as we know, for the church has to have this mission built within, because that is why we do what we do.
It absolutely is, and we're looking at the total picture, and it is such a reward when you see that you have helped someone make a change in their lives or to give them hope. And sometimes that doesn't always mean just giving them assistance. Just being an ear and listening to them is often a great help, or referring them or telling them where resources may be able to help them can make a big impact in their lives and give them that little bit of hope so that they can move forward.
For more pertinent information, visit www.doy.org, the website of the Catholic Diocese of Youngstown. Stay with us. We'll be back in a moment.
Pope Francis reminds consecrated persons that the first thing for a disciple is to be with the Master, to listen to him and to learn from him. If the warmth of God, his love, his tenderness is not in our hearts, then how can we, who are poor sinners, warm the hearts of others? The more the mission calls you to go out to the margins of existence, says Pope Francis, let your heart be more closely united to Christ's heart, full of mercy and love. When reflecting on this world of distrust, discouragement, and depression, Pope Francis looks to consecrated persons to introduce belief in the possibility of true happiness, in the feasibility of hope that does not depend solely on talent, superiority, or knowledge, but on God. All are given the possibility of encountering Him, if only they seek Him with a sincere heart.
Church World Service believes that being self-reliant is a joy everyone should share. So around the block or around the world, share the joy.
Our song today is from the CD called As I Pray. It is by Lorraine Hess and is available through World Library Publications and iTunes.
Take, O Lord, and receive all my liberty. Take my memory. Take my understanding. Take, Lord, and receive my whole will, all that I am, and all I possess comes from you. Take, O Lord, and receive. I surrender to you. Take, O Lord, and receive all my liberty. Take my memory. Take my understanding. Take Take my memory, take my understanding. Take, Lord, and receive my whole will, all that I am, and all I possess comes from you. Take, oh Lord, and receive. Take, oh Lord, and receive all that I am, all that I am, all that
As we celebrate this 29th Sunday in Ordinary Time, we will hear more about the sacred scriptures by Father Joe Zamri. He is pastor of St. James Church in Waynesburg.
When we think of the apostles, especially Peter, James, and John, the sons of Zebedee, the first ones called by Jesus to follow him, we have our minds fixed on their holiness and their love of Jesus. In today's gospel, we see a different side of James and John when they ask a favor of Jesus. They ask, "Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask of you." And Jesus was always open to his apostles' request, and he said, "What do you wish me to do for you?" They answered him, "Grant that in your glory we may sit one at your right and the other at your left." And what did Jesus say to them? "You do not know what you're asking. Can you drink the cup that I drink, or be baptized with the baptism with which I am baptized?" They said to him, "We can." Jesus went on to explain that they will drink the same cup, and they will drink of that baptism which he is baptized, they will be baptized. He said this to let them know that his baptism was that of his death, which was coming very soon, and that they also would encounter their deaths. When it came to the request that they sit one at his right and the other at his left in his kingdom, he told them that was not his to give, but it was for those for whom it had been prepared. They had lost sight of what Jesus and his mission was about. They were thinking in the ways of the world and not the ways of God. In their day, those who were in power wielded their power over their subjects, and they had the seat of power. Those who sat at their left and their right were sharers in that power. They wanted to get those seats in heaven before the others. How quickly we can be overcome with the desire for honor and power. They were on the wrong path to holiness. When the others heard that they had asked this of Jesus, they became indignant of James and John. See how their humanity was taking over, and they regarded James and John requests for their honor and power. Jesus called them together and said to them, "You know that those who recognized as rulers over the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great ones make their authority felt. But it shall not be so among you. Rather, whoever wishes to be great among you shall be the servant of all those who they meet. Whomever wishes to be first among you will be the slave of all. For the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for the many." When we look at Jesus, we see the Son of God, who became one like us, and he came to live among us. His mission was that which is written in the book of the prophet Isaiah. That is our first reading today. The Lord was pleased to crush him in infirmity. If he gives him life as an offering for sin, he shall see his descendants in a long line, and the Lord shall be accomplished through him. Because of this affliction, he shall see the light in his fullness of days. Through his sufferings, my servant shall justify many, and their guilt he shall bear. Jesus is indeed the great suffering servant, taking on the abuse and the ridicule of those who put him to the test. The apostles had a different mindset as to how Jesus would be treated and accepted by the people and their leaders. We often see the gospel as a no-risk offer. We see the glory, but not the suffering. We think Christianity is going to give us only joy and hope without requiring anything in return. We Christians are not to share society's goals and measures. Learning to be humble servants of God, our goal is as Christians. Our Holy Father Francis is a good example of those who imitate Jesus in his humility. He reached the high office of Pope and did so not seeking a high place in the Church. He took off the trappings of honor of living in a palace, but stepping down to a more humble dwelling. Pope Francis follows the lead of Saint Francis, living humbly and being the servant of the servants of God. Pope Francis models himself after Jesus, seeking the poor, the sick, the lonely, and the imprisoned. He embraces the lepers and those who are rejected by society. He washes the feet of prisoners and little children. He welcomes sinners and is merciful and forgiving. We too are called to be a follower of Jesus, to follow him in bearing your cross and offering up our sufferings with his to the Father. We await his coming and the reward of everlasting life. This is Father Joe Zamory.
In today's Gospel, we discover through the desire of James and John that the reality of greatness lies not within position as it has more to do with partnership. Culture tends to confuse greatness with pedestals. Jesus associates greatness with sharing the struggles of the kingdom together so that we can drink the cup of partnership with him. Are you willing to do that? Wineskins is a production of CTNY, the Catholic Telecommunications Network of Youngstown. It is brought to you by the annual Bishop's Appeal, the Catholic Communication Campaign, and St. Paul's Catholic Books and Gifts. I'm your host, Father Jim Corda, wishing you a beautiful week.